since the lockdown in March, we've actually had 7 new businesses open up in Peterhead. I'll just name check them. Hayes Travel, who are obviously a national organisation. Locally, Bien's Nails, RS Home Interiors, both on Marshall Street, is really our prime commercial, or what was, shopping street in Peterhead. Curvy Ladies and Northeast Outlet on Maiden Street, just outside the town centre, but again, exploiting empty property. Very Spexy, got to be careful how you say that one, on Broad Street, and Sprinkles on St. Peter Street. That's 7 new businesses in the last sort of 8-9 months since the lockdown started, and during obviously a time of great difficulty and change caused by COVID. What I'd like to do now is introduce 2 the Peterhead property owners that I've known for quite a while. I think they're both born and bred Peterhead, certainly been around operating in Peterhead for a long time. That's Alan Gardiner and Ian Devonish. But first of all, I'm going to introduce you to Alan, who's primarily a building owner in the town, owns a number of commercial and residential buildings, and also a developer who's assisted various businesses up and going over the years. What would you be looking as a property owner from an entrepreneur if they were inquiring about a property or a building?
What am I looking for as a property owner from an entrepreneur? I would say probably first and foremost, an idea. I mean, I've spoken to various people over the years about getting into business, but a lot of them are probably just too scared to pull the trigger. Most people kind of tend to brush it aside because they worry really what other people are going to think. And a good example would be you get classic red light thinkers and green light thinkers. A red light thinker will tell you what your way to do will never work. They'll tell you it's been tried before and it didn't work. And they'll always try and put you off. Where a green light thinker comes from a different perspective altogether, and they'll encourage you to go for it. They'll encourage you in it, and they'll probably advise you constructively how to go forward. I personally have a lot of ideas, different property ideas over the years, and I suppose if I had worried what others thought, I'd never have got into starting any project. So the key for me really is, to answer that question, is to share your idea with people who will offer solid advice, steer you in the right direction, because the right people, if you have the right people around about you, they'll empower you. And that type of help that you can get from people, and I know many people in the town, I'd be one of them, but I could name lots of people that would more than happily take a coffee and sit down and help either a brand new entrepreneur into the market or somebody that's developing businesses. And that type of help can come probably right at the start of the journey, or when you're just away to start a business, or if you're already, like in Paul's case was a good example, started on your journey. I've known Paul for quite many years, since he was a lot younger, and he'd started his business and knew what he was doing, and loved his story as he started his business. But we would now and again get together for a cup of coffee and just have a chat about what he was thinking, about his development, how he was taking his business. And for me, part of that is to sit, to listen, to hear. And at the end of the day, I always say to people, if I'm sitting down looking and speaking to an entrepreneur who's either a way to start or who's already going, in like Paul's case, and after a half an hour cup of coffee, if I don't say anything new to them to give them a new advice, but what I have done is confirmed what they're already thinking and given them the encouragement towards what they're already doing, then it's worth it. So for me, it's not necessarily providing answers, but it's just supporting people to get going and to continue to develop. So acting as a sounding board would probably be a good way of answering that question.
Right, that's good to hear. Thank you, Alan. I think overall that maybe sums up a little bit about what Investing Peterhead is about. It's not everybody working on their own, just squirreling away an idea that never comes out. It's actually putting the idea out there. And self as on the stakeholder group of Invest all the way through, you're keen to offer advice and share that idea in the hope that if a few folk around a table can get their heads together and make something work, whereas before maybe it was just an idea never really explored, and either somebody jumped in or more often than not they just kept the idea to themselves and didn't do anything about it. So what can you offer as a property owner?
Good question. The obvious answer would be any empty properties I personally would have that could be up and currently for lease. However, the obvious is not always the best one, because the chances of having the right property available at the right time would be pretty fortunate. I think the real key to establish with a potential person who wants to either start a business or expand a business is the type of property that ideally fits and suits their needs. So from that perspective, as a property owner, I would then be looking to source a property accordingly to meet that need, rather than have the one that's empty and ready to go. Great if the one I have suits, but if the ones I have empty at the time don't suit, then it's a matter of sourcing it. Most of the properties that get leased are sourced, are not currently on the market. So you could walk down through a town centre like Peterhead and everything looks full, or many of the properties look full, but you don't know what's happening to that business or to that person behind the door, what their thoughts are, and it's currently occupied by somebody else. But through Invest in Peterhead, it's a great vehicle for it, but through conversations, through networking, through contacts, these potential property deals could be done, and an option could be purchased in them and then leased out to this new business coming forward. So for example, somebody's in a business that potentially want to retire, they don't know what the next step would be. Through building this kind of network, a new entrepreneur comes along with a great idea, needs a premises. That premises is not available currently, but we know that somebody's ready to move on or to come out or to maybe want to upgrade themselves and change shops, change properties, and then we can put them together, and that's another new business into town, and hopefully the one, if they're not retiring, they move on to the next expansion. So it's not just about the obvious empty property, but it's about trying to find the right property that meets a need at that time.
Okay, again, yeah, a different take on things, and good to know that that we can possibly access other buildings. I mean, I know a couple of buildings that we haven't actually got on the Invest in Peterhead portfolio, for want of a better word, but we could easily bring them into play if somebody's looking for a specific need or a specific type of building. And do you actually have any current opportunities available in Peterhead?
Good question, John. Yeah, I've purchased the building above Arc Cinema and Brewdog. I took a speculative view on it because I saw that there was a huge potential, and Brian's talked a lot about that, about knock-on businesses and businesses that will complement one another, and I thought that it would be a great building to encourage either an existing brand or an entrepreneur into the area to open a restaurant of some sort. It is a well-established fact, and I think Brian's alluded to that when people go to the cinema in other areas of the country, not everybody, but many of them like the opportunity to enjoy a meal either before or after. And part of the work Invest in Peterhead, in the identification that Suzanne referred to, was that there is still a need for a food outlet, family dine-in, food and drink outlet in Peterhead. There's gaps there. So I thought that because it's positioned ideally above the cinema and Brewdog, it would be a great opportunity to buy it and then get it up for lease. So it's currently in a situation just now, probably by the end of the year, I'll be marketing it and hopefully trying to attract somebody in that would bring the right kind of offering to the area. It may be, as I said, a brand. The brands are obviously under a lot of pressure just now because of COVID, but it may be, could be somebody in Peterhead, go with some experience, maybe like Paul talked about early on, working in the hotel industry, but aspires to have their own business, is not caught up on just now with having had issues through COVID, but are ready to go. And I would encourage an entrepreneur that may be there to come and approach me and say, look, I would really like to start a restaurant, and then we could talk through the opportunity. For me, as well as this is a building to provide an opportunity for an investor to come in and set up a business. The bigger picture for me is that it'll massively help the regeneration of the town, as has happened with the cinema and the other businesses that you've already alluded to. But I've always believed that good businesses attract good businesses. And we're hearing about businesses today are good businesses, and anybody listening into some of the things that they're speaking about has got to be attracted to the town by some of the things that's been shared already today. And I just think if we can get good operators in to the town, possibly into that building, open a nice restaurant, it would encourage maybe other buildings in Peterhead that are empty right now, other investors to come in and open other restaurants. I don't see that as a problem. I see that as complemented, adding to the choice available, and almost creating a domino effect where success breeds success.
I agree. It hopefully is a domino effect. Something's building on the back of something else, and obviously Brian has mentioned that that's happened with his other developments in other areas. So thank you very much.